time for the meet and greet. Meet and greet. It's time for the meet and greet. Meet and greet. Proceed to the meet and greet.
Hello everyone, this is Asavari's meeting show 24. And once again we have Amara Posey. Wait a second, she is our star speaker. Congratulations, Amara, and
Thank
you are welcome to Asavari's meeting show 24. So please introduce yourself to our beautiful audience.
Sure. My name is Amara. I live in the New York City, New Jersey area. I am a dental hygiene student. I'm a professional performance artist, dancer. I am a licensed yoga instructor, and I have a background in creative arts therapy.
That's awesome. We are so proud of you. You are so multi-talented.
Thank you.
So, Amara, I know that you have traveled the world and you have seen the world from a very wide, broad, and higher perspective. So, it was partly your business trip and combined with your pleasure trip. So, our first topic of discussion is Middle East, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a lot to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So, to an evil character, we usually say that a green-eyed monster. Okay?
Yeah.
I know that Saudi Arabia is our ally, and we have respect for all countries, all nations, because not everybody in that country or the entire nation can be really good or really bad. There is a mix and match of different kinds of people, some good, some bad. But we are not talking about the common people. We are talking about the higher authorities, okay? Now, Middle East is a place which is constantly in action. So let me read the points which I have jotted down so that I don't miss anything.
Sure.
Yes. The Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen is an intervention launched by Saudi Arabia on 26th March 2015, leading a coalition of 9 countries from West Asia and North Africa, responding to calls from the President of Yemen, Abradabu Mansur Hadi, for military support after he was ousted by the Houthi movement, despite the progress in the political transition led by the United Nations at that time. Most recently, Yemen's Houthis fell in second missile attack on UAE, although the first attack was successful. On January 17, the Houthis hit a fuel depot in Abu Dhabi, killing 3 people and injuring several. Saudi Arabia droned Yemen for its attack on UAE, in which almost 100 Yemenis were killed and severely injured. So sad. It's all about oil and muscle power. Saudi has a bad criminal history as per beheading, blinding, chopping of limbs, and we all know about Jamal Khashoggi's merciless death in the embassy. So if this continues, what is the future of Middle East and where is the world economy going, especially in this pandemic? War is expense, right? As we are witnessing that a constant bear market is talking a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot, I think, of hidden context behind what you just spoke about that would take many, many meetings to talk about. We could write a whole book on it, to be honest with you, even in the recent events only. In combination of factors with Saudi Arabia really being the richest country out there, and it's privately rich. It's not publicly rich. It's not off of capitalism. It's off of royal family money. So I think that creates a huge problem, not just for Yemen and surrounding Arab countries, but also for the entire globe, as everybody
Mhm.
They kind of want Saudi on their side, whether they're good or bad. I think that ethics get thrown out the window when people are interested in money. And there's also the issue that most people don't think about, is that there's a difference in the sects of Islam, between Shia and Sunni, and Saudi Arabia being Sunni, but more of a puritanical form called Wahhabi. Um, so Wahhabi Sunni Muslims are very strict. And Yemen is currently, the Houthis were backed by Iran, which is Shia.
Mhm.
And these sects don't get along. So there's so many factors combined in this topic that we would need days to talk about. And I think that it's a tragedy that um, the world is kind of turning a blind eye to the power plays and the power struggles that are happening between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Really, I feel like it's more of a sectarian clash at times. But then when you take Saudi's wealth into the picture, it creates a dynamic where people who shouldn't be involved in their business are involved in their business.
I truly agree with you. It's really, very alarming because we see that the stock market is kind of not
Yeah.
good. And then, the overall world economy is really, um, it's really in a slippery slope, I would say.
I
It's
think,
going down,
yeah.
it's not
I
going
think the
up.
problem is that Saudi Arabia gets to be a bully because they have so much money and because they have such a large influence on the global markets. I have a feeling that they tend to get away with a lot of things that most countries don't get away with. Obviously, the killing of Jamal Khashoggi was just horrific. And this happened in Istanbul. And Istanbul, as much as we'd like to pretend it's a neutral liaison country where, East meets West, or where the Arab and Muslim countries can kind of have a marketplace in the global economy, here's Saudi getting to bully everybody around and do whatever they want on foreign soil, and nobody says or does anything. So I think that's the tragedy in Yemen, and that's the problem with the global market, is that they get to do whatever they want and nobody says anything because we kind of need their money and we need their power and their influence.
It's like a, what to say, it's a case of, I would say, being bossy, monopolizing, and I'm the boss, I'm the king, I'm all in all. And you
They're
all,
not the only country to do this by any means. Obviously, Russia is invading Ukraine right now, which I know wasn't on our topic of discussion today, but it's the same thing where you've got a richer, more powerful country in the global market, and they're overtaking a weaker power and a weaker nation, just for monetary, political power gain. And it's got to stop. It's is a very slippery slope, as you mentioned.
and my concern is because you are an American now, I'm an American too. So since our economy is not doing good, and it's just unbelievable that on record, if you Google search or go to any search engine, you will see on record we have $28.9 trillion of debts and deficit. So
Mhm.
almost $29 trillion.
Yeah.
So if on record it is $29 trillion, so just imagine that what will be the actual amount off record? Because on record is something that which is kind of like hidden from the public. So it can, you know, be
I think what's sad is the deals that are made behind closed doors, and how those deals made between two, three, four people, can change an entire nation's outcome. And I don't know how we can change that. But I think that as the common people that we are, it's something to raise awareness, and not that we could really do anything about it, but I just don't know what to do other than see it and recognize it, and whenever I can, voice an opinion against it, you know?
Mhm.
I'm a fighter for justice, and
Right.
when
Because,
money's involved, there's no justice ever.
yeah, that's what we are doing. You are doing, I am doing, raising our
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
I mean, creating an awareness and also, talking about it, because if nobody would even talk about it, then, I mean, we won't know that what's going on. I mean, we have every right. We pay taxes. I mean, we are the ones, who vote for these people and we get them elected, right? Anyway, the second topic of discussion is Afghanistan's sufferings. So, Afghanistan is a country which has suffered a lot ever since from the Russian invasion, and then, when the NATO created a base over there. So
Right.
the Talibans have really devastated Afghanistan, and now they are back in power. So, which is something which is really, alarming, not only for Afghanistan, but for the entire world. So after the Taliban took over and the NATO withdrew, now there is an unprecedented hunger crisis which has emerged in the wake of the economic collapse and ongoing drought. By late 2021, nearly half of Afghans were experiencing crisis or worse levels of food insecurity, the highest level ever recorded in Afghanistan, and a 37% rise compared to 6 months earlier. Also, it's now freezing cold there, and half of the population don't have warm clothes and shelter. So, how can the world help Afghanistan to fight with the hunger and extreme weather, especially when the Taliban's are in power?
Yeah, this is another one that for me, I feel helpless in a lot of ways other than raising awareness. I think that the biggest tragedy here is that no matter what any type of nonprofit organization were to do, no matter what type of diplomatic mission were to occur, no matter how much we put into even just dropping food packages over the country, I'm afraid that the Taliban have such a grasp, or they have instilled such fear and demoralized the people of Afghanistan so much
Mhm.
that they, no matter what outside world would try to provide for Afghanistan, I feel like Taliban would just take it all for themselves. So this is a really challenging question to answer. I know that, when Biden pulled out US troops very drastically, very suddenly, I'm quite happy that there was such an outrage and international reaction that there was. What makes me sad now is the fact that it's not talked about anymore, nobody cares anymore, it's old news. But it's not old news. The people are still suffering, the people are still struggling, and it's getting worse, and it will continue getting worse. And obviously, we can't, send another 20-year mission there. That would be foolish. So for me, I think the biggest thing, honestly, has to come from the inside out, or from groundwork from neighboring countries. The US and the Western world has a terrible reputation with the Taliban, given the fact that we occupied a country for as long as we did. I did think it was beautiful to see US troops trying to save Afghan families, and, especially like, teachers, children, people that helped on the inside, but we got those people out to the best of our ability, and I'm happy that we were able to save who we were able to save. But now the question is, who can help the Afghan people if we brought our Afghan allies out, to the best of our ability? We can't go back in, they can't go back in.
And
So
Mr.
I think
Biden
that
has
it's an
been
issue. I think it's an issue where,
criticized actually by his own people, when he decided and withdrew the NATO.
yeah,
He was
I think
severely
that,
criticized.
yeah, I think that the issue is we're gonna have to have neighboring countries like, Pakistan, like, maybe even Russia, like, and Russia obviously probably doesn't care, but I feel like it's a groundwork mission from the inside out that the people are going to have to either fight back, stop being afraid, find a neighboring country to distribute aid, because I think any aid coming from the Western world is just going to be sucked dry by the Taliban and not distributed fairly to the people.
Mhm.
And I hate to say that, that's not good news, but it is how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, Pakistan is trying very hard to give asylum and shelter,
Yeah.
and because they share common culture and heritage. Uh, I mean, a long time ago it was just one single piece of land, and then it became Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India and
Yeah.
Bangladesh. So
This reminds me of when ISIS took over Syria, to be honest with you. And we had a lot of people seeking asylum outside of Syria, and we have this mass exodus of people. And I think what's scary is that, you know, there's a lot of pain and hunger that these people have to go through, and danger that these people have to go through to try to get out. So I think that Pakistan really, if they could provide open borders, maybe.
right.
But
I
then it's
mean,
like
they did,
I don't
actually.
know how much the Taliban can control them, and
Yeah.
there's no way to get reporters inside to see how bad it is now, and it's just
And because of the pandemic and because of the fallen economy, each and
yeah,
every country, they have so much internal issues ongoing. I
yeah.
mean, every country is kind of limping, cannot stand on their own feet. So getting, somebody else's problems in addition to their own problems is like a basic problem. I mean, even if the other countries wants to do something, but it's some kind of like they can't really do it.
I'm from the South. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and we have grassroots organizations to combat poverty and hunger, like where I'm from. We have people of the communities helping the communities. But in this case, yeah, that's the thing. It would take some very brave martyrs, honestly, from within the country to at least start enough of a internal struggle to at least maybe make the Taliban realize, oh, we do need outside help. I don't know what else to say or to help with that. And it's just so sad. And I pray for the
Very
people of
sad,
Afghanistan.
yes, we definitely, they need a lot of prayers, and I'm praying, you are praying, as a good citizen,
Yeah,
good Samaritan, that's all we can do.
yeah.
And be optimistic, and try to raise some money, and
I
try
would
to.
wonder about asking the people that have sought asylum, the refugees that have come to the US. I know that there were some that came from Afghanistan to New Jersey last year.
Mhm.
So I feel like maybe asking the people who were there what the best idea is would be helpful.
Right. As we always discuss socio-political topics in our
Yeah.
panel, now comes a very sad and very tragic incident which recently happened in New York City. So it's called the Harlem gunfire. Two New York City officers were shot inside a Harlem apartment while responding to a domestic violence call. One officer was killed and the other was critically wounded. A mother said she was arguing with her son, who had verbally threatened her and wanted officers to come to talk to him in their apartment in Harlem. The two officers made their way down a cramped hallway toward the open door, one behind the other, the lead officer calling the son's name. Then the son appeared in the bedroom doorway, releasing a deadly hail of gunfire. The 47-year-old son, criminally noteworthy only for a 19-year-old drug conviction and older arrests out of state, raised a black handgun with a bizarre Tommy gun style attachment and opened fire, killing Officer Jason Rivera, who is 22 years old, and gravely injuring his partner Wilbert Mora, 27. So the second officer, Wilbert Mora, he has died today. And it's indeed a very sad day for NYPD and for NYC and for all of us. So as a new mayor focuses his administration on public safety, the violence threatened to reinforce a perception that New York City was returning to a state of lawlessness and despair, reminiscent of the Fear City era of the 1970s. Now, in this incident, rookie officer Sumit Sulan shot the alleged gunman. There has been a lot of candlelight vigil and prayers, but it's very unfortunate that this has happened. The mayor, Eric Adams, the newly elected mayor, said on Saturday that he would soon unveil a new plan to reduce gun violence. Gun violence is still beyond control and is a big threat in USA and beyond. So what is your opinion, suggestion, and advice? What is the remedy or cure?
Right. It's crazy. We talk about foreign issues, and sometimes we ignore our own issues in the US, and gun violence is probably one of our number one issues. And this is something too where, from my own perspective, growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis is a predominantly urban African-American city. And Memphis also has an extremely high crime rate, specifically for domestic violence.
Mhm.
So I feel like for New York City, there actually is hope, because I feel like there might be a little bit more proactiveness in the general community to help put an end to this. I really think that there are two things that might be a good idea. Other cities like Chicago and Memphis, where I'm from, have implemented programs, Cash for Guns. New York City is just a mess right now because of the pandemic, because of inflation, because of expenses that we already have. New York City this year is, I believe, the 5th most expensive city in the entire world, and the first most expensive city in the US. So I feel like something successful for New York City specifically would be a buyback program to turn in guns, no questions asked, for cash, because we are all struggling, myself included, right now, to make ends meet in the most expensive city in the US right now. And I think that that would be a good incentive program, especially for younger, maybe not this 47-year-old man in this instance, with a long criminal history, but especially for younger offenders or younger people with guns that really are just strapped for cash, and they're feeling the effects of inflation and the pandemic right now. That's a great idea that the mayor could implement. But then the other thing that we've already done in New York City, and other cities are now copying New York City and the NYPD, are citizen officers. So outreach programs where we have neighborhood civilians who act as liaisons to kind of keep the peace between the people and the officers. I feel like that's a really great program that should be better funded, better educated, and almost even like better politicized. Like, let's get people on the ground, let's get people helping each other. If you know somebody that owns a gun or has a gun, talk to them about gun safety, because it's not just violent offenders. This is, especially in a case of domestic violence, I have a master's degree in psychotherapy. Especially in the case of domestic violence, you're not thinking clearly, no matter what, no matter who you are. If you're a teenager, if you're a woman, if you're a man, you are acting on rage and anger. And the best thing to do would be to have somebody who you can trust, not necessarily an officer, especially when it's a Black community member versus a different officer with a different skin color. You might need somebody from your own neighborhood, from your own apartment building, to kind of calm you out of a situation where you would use a gun against someone else.
See, there has been several issues, I mean, behind this kind of incidents. I mean, if you recall the case of George Floyd, I mean, still people have a lot of anger and rage against the police officers. And I don't know what exactly happened and why it happened. Why, first of all, this person who has a criminal record for so many years, I mean, what he was doing in that apartment with his mother, exactly what happened, why he's not behind bars, why he's not in a rehab center, because he needs help. I mean, he's uh, I would say, mental, I mean,
The US and the world in general. And this is something we should talk about another time. This is such a great topic. We are so underfunded in our mental health advocacy, in our mental health needs, in our I mean, I got out of mental health because I wasn't even getting paid enough and I was working in a psychiatric hospital. I was making no money. I was making below poverty pay with a master's degree in the state of New Jersey
mhm.
to help people in a psychiatric hospital working overtime, no vacations. I worked holidays. I gave everything for what? For burnout, for to struggle myself. There are not enough resources in mental health and it is underfunded. And you're right. That guy, we don't know why. We never know why. Why does a kid shoot up a school? Why does domestic violence happen? Why do people, there's so many whys and it's not really why. It's just like, how do we
I mean, to
fix
my
it?
understanding, I mean, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
In my understanding, this fallen economy is a crucial issue.
Oh yeah.
People, they cannot meet their ends. I mean, I'm a teacher, an artist, I'm an entertainment, and it's very difficult for me to meet my ends to pay my bills
Yep.
because there is no steady income.
No.
And in New York City, the artists, they're struggling. I
Yep.
mean, entertainment industry is the worst hit industry, I would say, because it comes below the list. It's not a priority.
Yeah.
I mean, entertainment comes when people have peace of mind, when there is a steady flow of economy, when the money rolls, when there is a constant cash flow, then people think about, okay, let's go and enjoy, have some fiesta or party time together. But otherwise, people have so many issues to deal with. But coming back to the domestic violence, in my understanding, I mean, one of the main reason is money. One
Yeah.
of the main reason is the fallen economy. People, they don't know, I mean, what they would eat tomorrow because they don't have money. There is a severe budget crunch. The pandemic has
Well,
really,
who knows what leads to violent crimes in general, theft, not just gun violence. Like when people's mental health, and this is all of us, all of our mental health has suffered, all of us. Some people can handle it better than others, and you're absolutely right. Like it's something where we have to we have to get a hold on our mental health in the sense that we are all struggling right now financially because of COVID, and that leads to violent crime, and we have to nip it in the bud, and that's why citizen policing and citizen liaisons might be beneficial. But then it's like, is that a paid opportunity? Who has time for that when we're all trying to put food on the table?
right, exactly. I mean, how much can you volunteer? I mean, I wish to volunteer more, but I also have limitations, just like you said that you have a master's degree and if you are
I mean,
underpaid,
I made below $40,000 a year, below $40,000 a year in New Jersey, working in a psychiatric hospital. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, how much can you I mean, everybody has their own limits. I mean, we cannot really do much, although we wish to. I mean, the pandemic has tilted everything, shaken everything. It has turned the whole economy upside down.
Yeah.
And plus, all these wars, and we, United States of America, we are involved into so many war-like situation and wars, and we are kind of like wasting our money. We have already wasted our money. We are wasting our money. And I don't know that where this debts and deficit will go. I mean, $30 trillion, if it's on record, so it can be something
Yeah.
bigger off record, which
Maybe
we
if we
don't know.
put maybe if we put that money into our own towns and communities, we could really
Yeah,
benefit from the
exactly. I
ground
mean,
up.
$30 trillion is a huge amount of money. And just imagine that if we could have invested that money in our economy, in our infrastructure, even, repairing the roads. I mean, even, in schools and colleges and universities, in small businesses.
Yeah, I know. I'd be curious to see what Eric Adams actually says, and it's not, I feel this way towards any politician. Whenever a politician makes a promise, I never, ever, ever believe it. So real change would be such a welcome thing, and especially because our situation in New York City has been exacerbated by mandates, by the pandemic, by closures, by the scale of how many people there are and how big COVID has been such a big problem. It's a large problem to fix. So I think that from a very concrete perspective, guns for cash is a good start. Like do something productive. Let's see what he has to say.
Well, he is a newly elect mayor, and it will take some time for him also to establish. Oh my God, I just
Yeah, she's
saw.
here. Fiona decides to make an appearance.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, as I was saying, that it will take some time for him to stabilize the entire situation. But it's really alarming. I mean, if this thing is continues, I don't know that uh, where it is taking our economy, because that is one of I mean, it is my main concern actually right now.
Yeah. What was interesting, New York City implemented home healthcare aides, and the fact that you as a family member could get paid to take care of another family member. I've seen that program really work. I've also seen people take advantage of that, where they're not really taking care of family as they should, but they're getting paid to do so. So I feel like building um, our, I guess, social network in the sense that you're helping on a community level and you're funding on a community level. Like I feel like that might be a good place to implement those types of programs, like with the social policing too, like just like the community outreach. There's not enough money in social work and mental health, and I feel like the home health aid thing was a good idea, like, and
Mhm.
it does take time. So I feel like the cash for guns is a quick thing. Let's do it now. Let's offer it now while people are hungry, while people are struggling. It'd have to be a significant amount. Let's get it started. And I don't know. I there's a lot of problems.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so
Yeah.
many problems, and there is only a little solution, and that solution is not enough. So, in my understanding, the first and foremost thing is that we, as a nation, we should really stop interfering in other countries' politics and internal issues, and should really take care of our own homeland, because charity begins from home. And
Absolutely.
if we cannot take care of our own civilians, our own people, then we should not be called as a superpower, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we claim that we are superpowers, which is very good, which is a great thing of
But
pride.
no country that I'm aware of, in this developed world, no country that I'm aware of in the developed world, even maybe non-developed countries, has as many problems with gun violence as we do. like
Exactly.
internally. We we
Exactly.
are
You are
destroying
very right.
ourselves. We are
Very right.
destroying ourselves from the inside out, you know? And I believe a lot of it is based on the bureaucracy of our politics. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the um how resources are spent unwisely,
Hmm.
you know, where money's spent unwisely. As much as capitalism can make a nation great, it can also be a nation's
Hmm.
detriment when individuals just get too greedy. And something for the future, I was reading an article where the one percenters in the US were asked how much they thought the average US salary was every year. Everybody thought it was over six figures. They asked college aged students in Ivy League schools who are part of the 1%, not just college age, they had asked older as well. And they are so out of touch. They are so beyond out of touch, like with the actual reality of the rest of the US. They thought that the average American was making over six figures a year.
Do you have any idea how much Mr. Biden makes?
No, I don't. How much does he
Maybe
make?
500,000, I believe. 500K.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, about that much of money, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all, I mean, they're all lining their pockets. It's all about power and politics at the end of the day. And we are just, as you said, that word, slippery slope, not just in the US, but on a global scale. And so I think that, um, you know, this pandemic has invited a giant power grab for the wealthy, not just Biden, Bill Gates, all of the pharmaceutical companies banking on literally banking on our health. But this pandemic has created a vacuum of uncertainty where the powerful and rich are just able to get more rich and powerful, and everything else just kind of goes on the wayside. So it's
Yeah.
hard for us when we're struggling, us common folk, not the one
Mhm.
percenters. It's hard to help people in Afghanistan. It's hard to help people in Yemen. It's hard to help a neighbor when I can barely help myself. Meanwhile, those
Exactly.
in power, those in politics, those in money literally are having a heyday buying NFTs. Like, come on, really? Like you're buying digital art that's all pixelated at $400,000. You're playing with Bitcoin like it's nothing. Like, what does that say? We all want power at the end of the day. We all want money at the end of the day, but the gap between the rich and the poor has just grown so much during this time.
Yeah, I mean, we have been doing a lot of researches. I mean, we are sending satellites. uh, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about NASA and all that,
Yeah, they're starting a moon hotel or something.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
the
And then Mars and all those
space
things.
station hotel
We
is
have
gonna
money
be
to do
ready in
all
the
those
next
things,
10
which is
years.
actually, not bad because it's science and, we want to do good. We want to prove that we are superpowers. But at the same time, look at the Harlem, we are coming back to our point
Yeah.
of discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
this government housing, it's like the worst you can ever imagine. I mean, there is simply zero maintenance or below maintenance. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is like,
Well, that's how the Bronx
broken.
fires happened. Like about a month ago. The Bronx fires, there's a lack of maintenance on these buildings. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I mean. These politicians, they don't really care about the people who they don't care about their constituents. They don't care. They don't care. No, they're the focus is always beyond themselves into a higher, more powerful place,
So
and it's not.
frustration is such a thing. I mean, you and I, we know it so well that
Yeah,
it builds up. It builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it explodes, in form of domestic violence,
yeah,
in attacking some people, because so many homelesses I see And in New York City, if you walk down the street, you will see that, so many businesses, they went out of business. The stores are closed.
Yep.
People are looking for rent and lease, but they are not getting a client and a customer. I mean, small businesses, it's limping. Some of the businesses, it went out of business. Has been a lot of foreclosures happening. Stocks are down. And we are still fighting with other countries. We are poking our nose into Russia's affair, into somebody else's affair, and spending money in Israel and Palestine conflict. And our own people, they have no food.
Yep. Yep.
So I just cannot relate, I just cannot relate these two
Yeah.
different kind of adverse situation. And it's so in an opposite direction that I cannot really bring them and try to see that why we are still a superpower.
We are witnessing the growth of the power gap. We are witnessing the growth of the poor becoming poorer and the rich becoming richer at an alarming rate. Alarming rate. It's like the stock market where people they bet on losses. They make money off of losses in certain markets. And I mean, there are people that can't even think about that right now because they're at a loss in their daily lives. Yeah, we're witnessing something that's very scary.
Hmm. Yeah, and the New York City, I mean, it used to have such a beautiful tourism. I mean, people, they used to come. I mean, they still come. I mean, when I went there during the Christmas, I saw a lot of people. But, I mean, New York City was lacking something, that life, that lively nature, I mean, it was like people there, mixing and mingling and buying, but the rate of shopping has also reduced substantially. I mean, I can tell it, I mean, um, then the restaurants and stuff, and then came the Omicron, and it is kind of
New York City is
further
not
pull
the
down
same.
the economy.
Yeah, New York City specifically is not the same. I don't know I don't know how long this is going to last either. Yeah. The mayor has a big job ahead of him. Not just not just on the front of domestic violence and gun violence, but somebody was just pushed in front of a subway train, what, 2 weeks ago? And this was, I mean, I don't quite remember the details, but it's like the fear of you're an ordinary person waiting for the train, going to your job, and you just get pushed off the tracks. Like, can we at least set up some safety barriers? Can
Hmm.
we at least like try to mirror some of the safety components that, let's say, European cities put in their trains? Where does all of that money go in New
I
York?
know. I mean, if this continues,
Where does the tax money go? Where does it go? Like here on the Jersey
managed.
here on the Jersey side, Phil Murphy just raised the tolls again by 4%. And I live above Hoboken. I'm by the Lincoln Tunnel, and I have to pay $4 to go home every day. Or I have to spend 15 additional minutes in traffic. So 15 minutes in traffic or $4 to go home. Like either way, I'm at a loss, and that's how I feel about New York right now. I'm at a loss. I'm just at a loss. Being here, I'm losing. And that's sad because this used to be a fantastic place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's so hard, I mean, people, those who have families, they have children to raise. It's much difficult in their case. And, you know, our safety, security, if it's on stake, it is kind of very alarming. And already the economy is falling. There is no end that I see in the very near future. I mean, $30 trillion of debts and deficits. I mean, I don't see in the very near future there is going to be any kind of what you call it, economic revival, restoration, and
Yeah.
you know, making it better.
Yeah.
So because for that we need to create more jobs. And now I hear that people they're quitting their jobs, people they're falling sick because of the Omicron, and they are just not going to work. I
Yeah.
mean, because of scarcity of manpower, there are so many businesses they are shutting down.
Yesterday, I wanted to go eat at a restaurant with my friend in Astoria. And
Hmm.
the place that we were going is open on Mondays, but we got to it and the sign on the door said closed today due to short staff.
Yeah, shortage
So
of
we
staff.
had to choose another place to eat. And as we're walking along Steinway, I mean, half of
I mean,
the
I just don't
people.
understand. People are looking for jobs, people are facing monetary issues, but at the same time, there is a shortage of staff. So again, I
That's capitalist greed for you though, because people don't want to pay their employees enough money, and inflation is affecting all of us. Like I understand it on a restaurant scale. I understand there's food is getting more expensive, food is getting more scarce. We've got this crisis with you know, uh, like trucks
Mhm.
and goods being delivered. And so I understand there's an expense at that side, but then there's also an expense that like you can't pay employees the same that you were paying them 10 years ago. I
Exactly.
think that people finally woke up and this is going to be a curious situation now. How do we stand for our rights? um, and know what we deserve, and we're not going to accept anything less. At the same time, all of us are struggling and we need more and we can't access more.
Right. Anyway, thank you so much, Amara, for your
Yeah,
valuable time that you have given to Asavari, and I'm looking forward to see you again in February next
absolutely.
month
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be
with
here.
some other issues. And one of our issues is definitely going to be Valentine's, because it is the month of Valentine, and also it is the Black History Month. So we will continue talking about people, those who are, in that category, and we'll
Absolutely.
recall history. And what is your closing statement? I'm just looking forward to hear.
Oh boy. Closing statement today.
For today.
I was gonna say, I think my last closing statement was like, let's try to stay positive for 2022.
Uh-huh.
This time around, a closing statement. Wow. I would just say go for that grassroots outreach. Find somebody that you know. Find somebody you don't know. Maybe somebody in your apartment building, maybe somebody in the neighborhood, maybe somebody at your local deli. Ask them how they're doing. I think that part of the thing is we're all in this together. We're all struggling together. And part of community outreach and a grassroots start to ending violence and helping each other comes from starting a conversation. And New Yorkers don't really do that. So my closing statement is find somebody in your community and ask them how they're doing.
Right. I mean, I have a beautiful community here where I live, and when I go for a walk, I sometimes, I mean, stop by, and the person coming from the other direction, we say hi and hello, and then sometimes how you're doing, and they say that, well, we are working from home. It's okay. This kind of
Yeah,
answer.
not
The
necessarily a
real
happy
answer is
farm.
I'm not doing good. Yeah, it's really very sad, I would say, that people their hours have been substantially chopped off. I mean, people they're looking for job and the jobs are not paying enough,
Yeah.
and that's why people are quitting, and also people they're falling sick, and people are starving, and domestic violence is happening, and we are still interfering in other countries' affairs, and
Yeah.
losing more money where our own people need that money. So I would.
Misery does love company. That's how the saying goes.
Mhm.
But at least outreach in the sense that getting to know your neighbors a little bit better. We could start at least talking about these issues. And although we may not be able to do anything, and although we may not be able to do anything, at least we're asking a neighbor how they're doing, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
that
that's a
that can
nice thought.
go a long way sometimes.
Hmm. Great. Okay. So I'm looking forward to see you again sometimes very soon, which is next
Yeah,
month.
thank
And you
you.
are our star speaker. And that means, star speakers, they come at least once a month and they share their thought, and sharing is always caring. So thank you so much, Amara.
For having me. Thank you. I look forward to next month.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.